Ladies and gentlemen, as we speak, the absolute fury of nature has officially made landfall. Just minutes ago, Super Typhoon UWAN slammed into Taiwan, bringing with it terrifying winds at speeds up to 250 kilometers per hour. This is not merely a storm. This is a Category 5 destroyer, an unbeatable weather machine tearing apart everything in its path. Emergency red alerts have been issued across the entire East Coast, signaling an unavoidable disaster in progress. Millions have wrestled through the night, seeking safe refuge as the atmospheric pressure plummeted to critically dangerous levels. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center, JTWC, and the Japan Meteorological Agency, JMA, have just confirmed the latest parameters, showing the storm's core pressure holding steady at a terrifying 915 hectopascals, a clear alarm bell regarding its intensity. The deadly eye of Typhoon UWAN is currently tearing through the Luzon Strait, creating an unimaginable corridor of wind and waves. Forecasting models have failed to temper the fear. Instead, they have only confirmed that the storm's power remains at its absolute maximum just as it reaches land. This is a once-in-a-generation crisis that the Taiwanese government is now confronting. Taiwan's Central Weather Administration, CWA, has issued the highest-level red warning for the most vulnerable coastal areas. Hualien, Taitung, and the Hengchun Peninsula are now squarely within the direct impact zone. Forecasters warn that, beyond the wind, sea waves in these areas could reach heights of up to 6 meters, a colossal wall of water capable of swallowing coastal structures and low-lying communities. Immediately, more than 5,000 residents in Hualien County have been ordered into mandatory evacuation. Schools and offices have been closed across Ilan, Hualien, Kaohsiung, and Pingtung, effectively turning major cities into ghost towns amid the tempest. Emergency shelters are rapidly filling up. Buses and emergency vehicles work tirelessly to move people further inland, away from the coastal zone now being assaulted by the violent surge. However, the threat is not solely from the ocean. Rainfall forecasts of up to 400 millimeters for the eastern region are causing a sudden spike in the risk of landslides in steep mountain zones, turning rescue routes into potential death traps. While the storm center sweeps through, a vast flooding zone trails behind it. Rescue teams are racing against time to reach isolated communities where the elderly and children are trapped in the flash floods. The situation is extremely severe, and all eyes are fixed on the crucial hours ahead. Even as the typhoon's central eye begins its agonizingly slow grind across the coastline, the immediate threat of wind is quickly being overtaken by a much more insidious and widespread danger: the storm surge. This is not just tidal flooding. This is a massive, abnormal rise of water driven by the typhoon's immense power. Models from Taiwan's Central Weather Administration, CWA, vividly illustrate what is coming next. A true wall of water propelled by a deadly combination of extreme low pressure and unrelenting wind fields. The physics behind this disaster are relentless. The typhoon's barometric pressure, dropping to its near-record low of 915 HPA, acts like a giant suction cup, physically pulling the sea surface upwards. Simultaneously, the hurricane-force winds relentlessly push that water directly toward the shore. For the Hangchun Peninsula and Penangu, the forecast maps remain dire, showing peak surge heights maintaining those terrifying figures of up to 6 meters in the most exposed and vulnerable bays. In Hualien and Taitung, projections remain between 3 and 4 meters above the normal high tide, more than enough to breach defensive seawalls and flood extensive low-lying urban areas. These figures are generated by sophisticated real-time data fed into advanced circulation models, the very same tools utilized by emergency planners and coastal engineers. With Yuan's track running so perilously close to the coast, the wind fields are perfectly aligned to push the maximum volume of water directly onshore. Furthermore, local bathymetry, the shape of the seabed, is amplifying the catastrophe. Shallow bays and the mouths of major rivers are funneling and concentrating the surge, explaining why certain districts face significantly higher water levels than others, even those just a few kilometers apart. Tide gauge readings recorded overnight have tragically confirmed the accuracy of these model predictions. Water is rising fast, matching the forecast surge in southern Taiwan. Yet, there is a deeper, more sinister threat that truly has experts alarmed. As Yuan's powerful forces churn over the massive, deep ocean trenches nearby the Philippine Trench, the Ryukyu Trench, and the Bashi Channel, its low pressure and pounding waves are effectively squeezing the seabed. This immense pressure creates a phenomenon known as pore pressure buildup, pushing water into the trapped sediment, All eyes are now focused on those steep, underwater slopes. Experts fear that this unseen buildup could destabilize the slopes, triggering a submarine landslide. This, in turn, could unleash a secondary disaster, a pulse of water that mimics a small tsunami, striking the coast with virtually no warning. The story is no longer just about the typhoon. It's about what the typhoon is causing to happen deep below the waves. The threat of the submarine landslide is the most unpredictable and terrifying element of this crisis. When a massive storm like UWAN passes over the deep ocean trenches, its immense low pressure and the ceaseless pounding of its waves exert an overwhelming force on the seafloor. According to marine geologists, this process squeezes the seabed, critically changing the balance inside the layers of trapped mud and rock. This raises a quantity scientists call pore pressure, the water trapped between grains of sediment deep below the ocean floor. As the typhoon dumps torrents of rain and pushes monumental waves, that pressure can suddenly spike, particularly along the exceptionally steep underwater slopes that characterize the region. The Philippine Trench, the Ryukyu Trench, and the Bashi Channel are all under exceptionally close watch right now. These are geographical areas where the seabed drops off sharply, and where heavy loading from the storm's immense weight may render the slopes catastrophically unstable. Experts from NOAA and similar agencies report that a sharp increase in pore pressure can significantly weaken these slopes. If too much water builds up, the sediment already saturated and under incredible stress may give way instantaneously and trigger a catastrophic submarine landslide. This is not a common occurrence, but it is a known event that happens when highly specific conditions align: saturated ground, steep slopes, and the extra, brutal shove from a passing super typhoon. A major underwater landslide can instantaneously send a destructive pulse of water racing toward the coast. This is a wave that looks, behaves, and feels exactly like a small tsunami, even though no seismic earthquake was involved. Understanding this distinction is a matter of life and death. Storm surge builds slowly, over hours, forming a broad, sustained hump along the coastline, offering time to evacuate. A tsunami-like pulse, by contrast, begins with the Earth itself, resulting in a sharp, spike-like wave that can travel at incredible speed, reaching the coast with only minutes of warning, or none at all. This critical difference is why deep ocean monitoring has been elevated to code red status. Sensors placed directly on the ocean floor and along the coast, such as the dart buoys and coastal tide gauges, are specifically designed to catch any abnormal pressure changes or sudden, sharp sea level shifts. The scientists at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, PTWC, are watching the trenches relentlessly tonight, tracking every subtle signal from the deep, because the real story of this disaster may be unfolding far below, where the water and earth meet in dangerous silence. The critical nature of this monitoring was demonstrated vividly just past midnight. A sudden, terrifying spike flashed across the tide gauge located in the Bashi Channel. This abrupt jump simply did not fit the pattern of the slow, rolling surge that had been tracked meticulously all night. For 10 tense minutes, analysts at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, PTWC, immediately began weighing the data. Was this a genuine landslide-driven pulse beneath the strait? Was it an instrument glitch, or merely a rogue, isolated wave? The pressure to make a correct call was immense. A false alarm could cause panic, but a missed warning could cost thousands of lives. Teams raced to check parallel data streams. Instruments confirmed no significant seismic activity had occurred. There was no earthquake to account for the disturbance. Slowly, the spike faded just as quickly and mysteriously as it had appeared. At 1:14 UTC, the PTWC was able to issue a bulletin stating, "No tsunami threat detected. All clear for now." The collective sigh of relief was palpable, but the episode served as a chilling, brutal reminder. Sometimes, the warning window may literally last for only a handful of minutes. The difference between a harmless anomaly and a real deadly wall of water is measured solely by the unwavering vigilance of those watching the screens, minute by agonizing minute. This vigilance underscores the primary safety message being repeated across all emergency channels. If you live near the coast, you must keep official alerts close and be prepared to act instantly without waiting for confirmation. If sudden alarms sound, or if you witness the terrifying sight of the water pulling back unexpectedly from the shore, a classic tsunami indicator, you must move inland immediately. In moments like these, action cannot wait for official verification. Waiting could be the decision that seals your fate. Experts further confirm that a magnitude 6.5 earthquake or stronger near the deep ocean trenches is the specific threshold that would trigger an immediate mandatory tsunami bulletin from the PTWC. As of now, seismic networks from the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, the CWA, and the JMA have not detected any such powerful seismic event. Every dart buoy, every tide gauge, and every coastal sensor in the Luzon Strait and along Taiwan's east coast is currently reporting normally, with no outages and no critical coverage gaps. This means any sudden, sharp sea level changes or seismic shifts would be picked up within minutes, but the warning time remains terrifyingly small. While all attention remains fixed on the terrifying approach of UWAN toward Taiwan, the crisis is far from over in the Philippines, where the typhoon first unleashed its brutal fury. Northern Luzon remains catastrophically underwater. Flooding persists relentlessly in provinces like Cagayan and Isabela, painting a grim picture of widespread disaster long after the storm's core moved north. Rescue teams are facing a logistical nightmare, struggling to reach isolated Barones, the small villages, cut off by flash floods and debris. Access roads have been washed away, communication lines are down, and supplies are dwindling quickly for those stranded in remote upland areas. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, PAGASA, lists over 300,000 people displaced across Luzon alone. This staggering number represents a massive humanitarian catastrophe. Thousands are sheltering in crowded evacuation centers, where conditions are challenging and the risk of secondary disasters, like waterborne diseases, looms large. Compounding the misery, the storm's tail, a vast expanse of heavy rain and strong gusts, continues to lash the region. Even without the eye of the storm present, this relentless downpour prevents the floodwaters from receding, grounding relief efforts, and making any rapid recovery virtually impossible. This double crisis highlights the interconnected nature of the regional disaster. The Philippines is now dealing with the agonizing aftermath, the immediate need for food, clean water, and medical aid, while Taiwan braces for the initial impact. The resources of the entire region are being stretched thin. International aid agencies are coordinating relief efforts, but the scale of displacement is enormous, requiring sustained, long-term intervention that will span weeks, if not months. The images emerging from the flooded regions, homes submerged up to their rooftops, families clinging to whatever debris they can find, are a stark reminder of the sheer destructive capacity of Super Typhoon UWAN. For the analysts in the warning centers, the track of the storm's tail is just as crucial as the eye's path. Any lingering instability in the atmosphere over the Philippine Sea could impact the trajectory and intensity of the continuing rainfall, meaning that even communities that thought they had escaped the worst are still at risk of further flash flooding. As Taiwan prepares for its survival test against the 250 km/h winds, the Philippines is engaged in the difficult, necessary task of picking up the pieces under the oppressive weight of the typhoon's lasting legacy. As Super Typhoon UWAN enters its critical final phase over the Luzon Strait, the regional focus narrows to the next 24 to 72 hours. This period represents the end game, the window during which the maximum destructive potential of both the atmospheric and sub-oceanic threats will be realized. The millions across Taiwan and the Philippines must remain hyper-vigilant, monitoring for a specific set of indicators that will determine the immediate shift between threat and relative safety. For emergency planners, the stakes are summarized by clear indicators. Key red flags that would escalate the crisis to an immediate, extreme emergency include 1. A sudden, rapid drop in coastal water levels, the telltale sign of a drawing back prior to a tsunami wave. 2. A new high-magnitude offshore earthquake alert near the trenches. 3. Any immediate tsunami advisory issued by the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, PTWC. These are the non-negotiables. If they appear, immediate, full-scale inland movement is required. Conversely, there are green flags to watch for. 1. Consistently stable tide gauge readings, confirming that the seabed remains stable and the surge is tracking predictably. 2. Official forecasts showing a significant weakening of the storm or a beneficial track deviation. 3. Official all-clear messages from the Central Weather Administration, CWA, or the PTWC. Until these green flags are universally confirmed, the threat remains active. Currently, over 4 million people in Taiwan and the afflicted parts of the Philippines face the sea's next move. Storms may eventually pass, but the coastal risks they leave behind are indelible. Every surge, every tremor, and every pressure change is actively rewriting the boundaries of regional safety and preparedness. The data confirms that while the wind is the visible enemy, the true uncertainty lies in the deep trenches, where the power of the water and the earth meet in silent tension. In the face of this overwhelming natural power, the lesson is universal and simple. Preparedness is our only warning. The ocean does not keep calendars. Nature answers to no human deadline. As the storm rages and the world watches, the final, most crucial message remains clear. Keep your emergency kits close. Keep your alerts on, and be ready to act on instinct. The integrity of your survival rests entirely on your vigilance during this final, terrifying countdown.